The shuttle landed with a soft hum on the silver platform. Park Do-yeon grabbed his small bag and stepped out into the cold air of a world that was not his own. Above him, 3 moons hung in a purple sky. Around him, buildings made of glass and strange metals rose higher than anything he had ever seen on Earth. This was the Galactic Unity Academy, the most famous military school in the known universe. Every year, thousands of cadets from over 40 different species came here to train. They learned to fight, to lead, and to protect their worlds. Only the best were accepted. Do-yeon was 22 years old. He had black hair, tired eyes, and hands that knew hard work. He was not tall. He was not loud. He did not look special in any way, but he was one of only 3 humans ever admitted to this place. He walked toward the main building, passing groups of alien cadets who stopped talking to stare at him. Some of them were tall and thin, with skin like white marble. Others were short and covered in hard shells. A few had too many arms or eyes that glowed in strange colors. None of them smiled at him. Do-yeon kept walking. He had expected this. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 300 years ago. To most species, that was nothing. Some races had been traveling between stars for 10,000 years or more. To them, humans were children. Curious little creatures from a strange and dangerous planet. Inside the main hall, a tall alien with 4 arms handed him a datapad. "Room assignment," the alien said in a flat voice. "Floor 17. Do not be late for orientation." Do-yeon nodded and found his way to the lift. When the doors opened on floor 17, he walked down a long hallway until he found his room. The door slid open automatically. Inside, someone was already there. The alien was tall and thin, with a body like an insect. He had large black eyes and 2 antennae that twitched when he saw Do-yeon enter. His skin was dark green, and his movements were quick and nervous. "You are the human," the alien said. It was not a question. "Yes," Do-yeon replied. "I am Park Do-yeon. I am Vel." The alien tilted his head. "I have read about your species. You come from a death world." Do-yeon set his bag on the empty bed. "That is what they call it. High gravity. Extreme temperatures. Dangerous animals everywhere." Vel's antennae moved again. "It is strange that your kind survived at all." "We are stubborn," Do-yeon said simply. Vel made a clicking sound that might have been a laugh. "You will need to be. Humans are not well liked here. The Tori especially do not want you." The Tori. The pale ones. Tall. Beautiful. They think they are the natural leaders of the galaxy. Vel pointed toward the window. "They have been in power for a long time. They do not like newcomers who might challenge them." Do-yeon looked out the window at the alien city below. Ships flew between towers. Lights blinked in colors he had no names for. Everything was strange and new and far from home. "I did not come here to challenge anyone," he said quietly. "I came here to learn." "That may not matter to them," Vel replied. The next morning, Do-yeon attended his first class. It was called Advanced Combat Theory, and it was held in a large room with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform. About 50 cadets were already there when he arrived. He found an empty seat near the back and sat down. Almost immediately, the cadets around him moved away. They did not hide it. They simply stood up and found new seats, leaving him alone in a ring of empty chairs. Do-yeon did not react. He kept his eyes forward. The instructor arrived a few minutes later. His name was Korvax, and he was from a species Do-yeon did not recognize. He had gray skin, no nose, and eyes that seemed to look in 2 directions at once. His voice was deep and cold. "Today we begin tactical exercises," Korvax announced. "You will work in pairs. Choose your partners now." The room filled with movement and noise as cadets found each other. Do-yeon remained seated. No one approached him. No one even looked at him. After a minute, Korvax noticed. "Human, you do not have a partner." "No, instructor." Axe made a sound of annoyance. "Someone must work with the human. Who will volunteer?" Silence. Then a voice spoke from across the room. "I will speak with him." Tori was walking toward him. He was tall and elegant, with pale skin that seemed to glow faintly. His eyes were silver, and his hair was white as snow. He moved like water, smooth and confident, but there was no kindness in his face. "My name is Brix," the Tory said, stopping in front of Diane. "I am curious about humans. I am Park Do-yeon." Brix smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "I have heard about your world, a planet where everything is trying to kill you. Storms, predators, disease, even your own star burns your skin." "Earth is not easy," Do-yeon admitted, "and yet you think you belong here, among warriors who have trained for generations?" Brix leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper that only Do-yeon could hear. "Humans should stick to mining asteroids and building machines. You do not belong in a warrior's academy. You are not our equals. You never will be." Do-yeon looked at Brix for a long moment. He could feel the eyes of the entire class on them. He could feel the weight of the insult pressing down on him, but he did not react. "Thank you for your opinion," he said calmly. Brix's smile faded. He had expected anger. He had expected weakness. He had not expected calm. "You are boring," Brix said finally. "Find another partner. I have no use for you." He turned and walked away, returning to his group of friends. They were all Tory, all tall and pale and beautiful. They laughed at something Brix said, glancing back at Do-yeon with contempt. Do-yeon sat alone for the rest of the class. Korvax eventually assigned him to a training simulation meant for one person. He completed it without complaint. That night, in his room, Vel asked him what had happened. "Nothing important," Do-yeon said. "Brix is dangerous," Vel warned. "His family is powerful. He has many followers. If he has decided to hate you, your life here will be difficult." Do-yeon lay down on his bed and stared at the ceiling. The metal was cold and unfamiliar. Nothing here felt like home. "I know," he said quietly. But even as he closed his eyes, he remembered every word Brix had said. He remembered the laughter. He remembered the empty chairs around him, the way everyone had moved away like he was something unclean. He did not feel angry. Anger was a fire that burned too fast. What he felt was something deeper, something that settled into his bones and stayed there. He would remember this day. And when the time came, he would show them exactly what a human could do. Weeks passed at the Galactic Unity Academy. Do-yeon attended every class, completed every assignment, and spoke to almost no one. He ate alone in the dining hall. He trained alone in the simulation rooms. He walked alone through the silver hallways while other cadets moved in groups, laughing and talking in languages he did not understand, but he was not wasting his time. Every day, he studied his fellow cadets. He watched how they moved, how they fought, how they reacted under pressure. He learned which species were fast and which were strong. He memorized their weaknesses, their habits, their fears, and every day. He trained his body until his muscles burned and his lungs screamed for air. The instructors began to notice him, not because he was loud or impressive, but because their equipment kept breaking. During endurance tests, cadets were required to run on special machines that measured their energy output. Most species could sustain high activity for 10 or 15 minutes before their bodies demanded rest. The machines were designed for this normal range. Do-yeon ran for 2 hours without stopping. The machine shut down 3 times because it could not process his results. The instructors had to recalibrate it again and again. When he finally stepped off, covered in sweat but still standing, the other cadets stared at him like he was some kind of monster. Anomalous readings, one instructor muttered, checking the data. This cannot be correct. But it was correct. Do-Yan knew exactly why. Earth's gravity was nearly double that of most homeworlds in the galaxy. Humans had evolved under crushing weight that would break the bones of other species. Their hearts pumped harder. Their muscles grew denser. Their bodies were designed to endure punishment that would kill others. And there was something else. Something the aliens did not understand. Humans could push past their limits. When a Tori grew tired, they stopped. Their bodies simply refused to continue. It was the same for most species. They had biological switches that forced them to rest. Humans had no such switch. They could run until their hearts exploded. They could fight until their bones shattered. They could keep going long after their bodies told them to stop. Powered by nothing but will, the galaxy called Earth a death world. They were right. And its children were built to survive. But as Do-Yan's scores rose, so did the hatred against him. Brix and his followers watched him carefully. They saw his results. They heard the whisper spreading through the academy. Some cadets were beginning to respect the human. Some were beginning to wonder if, maybe, just maybe, humans were not as weak as everyone believed. Brix could not allow this. The attack started small. One morning, Do-Yan found his uniform torn to pieces in his room. A few days later, his training equipment was sabotaged, nearly causing an injury during a combat simulation. Rumors spread that he had cheated on his tests, that his scores were fake, that humans were liars who could not be trusted. Vel warned him to be careful. Brix is gathering allies, he said one night. Tori, Grell, Nyx, Keth, he is building a group against you. How many? Do-Yan asked. 9 that I know of. Maybe more. Do-Yan nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me. You should leave, Vel said quietly. There is no shame in walking away. If you stay, they will destroy you. Do-Yan looked at his roommate for a long moment. Vel was afraid for him. Genuinely afraid. It was strange to see concern in those large black eyes. I cannot leave, Do-Yan said finally. If I run now, no human will ever be welcome here again. They will say, we are cowards. They will say, we do not belong among warriors. And if you stay, if you fight and lose, then I will lose on my feet. 1 week later, Do-Yan received a message on his datapad. It was from someone he had not heard from in months. Her name was Han Yuna. She was also human. 24 years old, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She worked in the intelligence wing of the academy, monitoring communications and analyzing threats. They had trained together briefly on Earth before being sent to different parts of the galaxy. Meet me in Sector 7, her message said. Private channel. Important. Do-Yan found her in a small room filled with glowing screens and humming machines. She looked tired, like she had not slept in days. Brix filed a formal challenge, she said without greeting. It went through the academy system an hour ago. Do-Yan felt something cold settle in his stomach. A challenge? Under Article 12 of Academy Law, any cadet can challenge another to formal combat if they believe their honor has been insulted. Yuna pulled up a document on one of her screens. Brix claims you disrespected him in front of the class. He demands satisfaction. I said almost nothing to him. Does not matter. The rules allow him to make the claim. And here's the problem. She turned to face him fully. If you refuse the challenge, you will be expelled immediately. Article 12 says that refusing formal combat is an act of cowardice. You would be sent home in disgrace. Do-Yan was quiet for a moment. When is the challenge? Tomorrow. Combat Simulation Hall. Full attendance expected. Yuna's voice was grim. He is not coming alone, Do-Yan. He is bringing his entire group. 10 of them against you? 10 against 1? They are counting on you refusing. They think you will look at those numbers and run. Yuna stepped closer, her voice dropping. This is a trap. They want to humiliate you publicly. If you accept, they will beat you senseless in front of the entire academy. If you refuse, you are gone forever. Doyen stood very still. He thought about Brix's silver eyes and cruel smile. He thought about the empty chairs in that classroom, the way everyone had moved away from him. He thought about his torn uniform, his sabotaged equipment, the whispers that followed him everywhere. He had tried to be patient. He had tried to be peaceful. He had kept his head down and focused on his training, hoping that hard work would earn respect. None of it had mattered. They hated him simply because he was human. And they would keep hating him until he gave them a reason to stop. "Then I will not refuse," he said quietly. Yuna stared at him. "Doyen, this is not a fair fight. They are some of the best fighters in the academy. The Grell alone are twice your size. The Nyx are faster than anything you have ever seen, and the Keth have skin like stone. I know. You could die." Doyen met her eyes. There was no fear in his face, no doubt. Only a quiet determination that seemed to fill the small room like heat from a fire. "I could," he agreed. "But I will not run. Not from them. Not from anyone." Yuna was silent for a long moment. Then she shook her head slowly. "You humans," she whispered. "You are all insane." Doyen almost smiled. "Yes, that is how we survived." He left her alone with her screens and her warnings. Tomorrow, he would walk into that arena against 10 enemies who wanted to break him. Tomorrow, he would fight for his place in a galaxy that did not want him. And tomorrow, win or lose, he would show them what a human was made of. The combat simulation hall was the largest building in the academy. It was shaped like a dome with seats rising in circles around a central arena. The floor of the arena was made of something that looked like black glass, smooth and cold. Lights hung from the ceiling like artificial stars. On the day of the challenge, every seat was filled. Word had spread across the entire academy. Cadets from every species, from every training program, had come to watch. They packed the observation galleries until there was no room left to stand. Their voices filled the air with a low buzz of excitement and anticipation. Everyone wanted to see the human bee. Destroyed, Dojan walked through the main entrance alone. He wore standard training gear, simple black fabric that fit close to his body. He carried no weapons. This was hand-to-hand combat only, as the rules required. The crowd grew quiet as he approached the arena. Thousands of eyes followed him. Some were curious. Some were hostile. A few, very few, seemed almost sympathetic. He did not look at any of them. In the center of the arena, Brix was waiting with his allies. There were 10 of them in total, arranged in a loose formation. They looked confident. They looked hungry. Brix stood at the front. His pale skin seemed to glow under the artificial lights. His silver eyes watched Doyen with cold amusement. Behind him stood 2 more Tori, tall and elegant like their leader. They moved with the smooth grace of trained dancers. Every motion precise and controlled. To the left were 3 Grell warriors. They were massive, standing nearly 3 meters tall. Their bodies were thick with muscle, and their gray skin was covered in scars from countless battles. They came from a heavy gravity world. Though still lighter than Earth, they were considered the strongest species in the academy. To the right were 2 Nyx scouts. They were small and thin, with long limbs and large yellow eyes. Their homeworld had low gravity, making them incredibly fast. They could move quicker than the eye could follow. In a fight, they were like shadows, and behind them all stood 2 Keth brawlers. Their skin was dark brown, rough like stone. They were slow but nearly impossible to hurt. Blunt force meant nothing to them. Their bodies could absorb impacts that would shatter metal. 10 fighters, 10 of the Academy's best, against 1 human. Instructor Korvax walked to the edge of the arena. His cold voice echoed through the hall. "The challenge has been formally accepted. Under Article 12 of Academy Law, this combat will continue until one side yields or is unable to continue. No weapons. No outside assistance. Begin when ready." Brix smiled at Doyen across the arena. "You actually came. I thought you might run." Doyen did not answer. "It's brave. Stupid, but brave." Brix raised one elegant hand. "Do you have any last words?" Any message you want us to send back to your little planet? Doyan rolled his shoulders slowly. He took a deep breath, feeling the air fill his lungs. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was calm. No, he said simply. Brix's smile faded slightly. He had expected fear. He had expected begging. The human's quiet confidence was unexpected. Kill him, Brix ordered. The Nix moved first. They were impossibly fast, crossing the arena in the blink of an eye. To most species, they would have been invisible. Just blurs of motion, striking before anyone could react. But Doyan was not most species. Humans had evolved as pursuit predators. They could not outrun their prey, so they had learned to predict it. Their brains processed movement patterns faster than almost any other species in the galaxy. They could read body language, anticipate attacks, see strikes before they happened. The first Nix came from the left. Doyan saw the shift in weight, the angle of approach. He sidestepped at the last moment, letting the scout fly past him. The second Nix came from behind. Doyan spun, catching a glimpse of yellow eyes and reaching claws. He grabbed the scout by the throat and used the momentum to swing him around. Nix slammed into the ground with a crack that echoed through. The silent haul he did not get. Up, one down. The first scout hesitated. He had never seen anyone react to a Nix attack. It should have been impossible. Humans were supposed to be slow, clumsy creatures who relied on tools and machines. That hesitation lasted less than a second. It was enough Dojan closed the distance in two. Quick steps. His fist struck the nerve cluster behind the scout's ear, a point he had studied for weeks. The Nix's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. 2 down. The crowd had gone completely silent. No one spoke. No one even breathed. Brick stared at the 2 unconscious scouts on the ground. His silver eyes were wide. "The Grell," he said, his voice tight. Now, the 3 massive warriors charged forward. The ground shook with each step. They roared, a sound like thunder. Their huge fists raised to crush the small human before them. Doyan did not run. He watched them come. He measured their speed, their footwork, the way they distributed their weight. They were powerful. Yes, incredibly powerful. But they were also slow. And they had never fought something that had evolved under gravity heavier than their own. The first Grell swung a fist that could have crushed stone. Doyan ducked under it, feeling the wind of the blow pass over his head. He rolled to the side, coming up behind the second attacker. His elbow drove into the back of a knee joint. The Grell was heavy. Its own weight became its enemy. The joint buckled. And the warrior crashed to the ground with a roar of pain and surprise. 3 down. The other 2 Grell turned, confused. Their movements were too slow. Doyan grabbed the fallen warrior's arm and used it as leverage. Pulling himself up and over the massive body, he launched himself at the nearest Grell, his knee connecting with the side of its head. The impact would have broken a human's leg. But Doyan had trained for this. He had hardened his bones, strengthened his joints, pushed his body beyond normal limits. The Grell stumbled. Dazed, Doyan landed, spun, and delivered a spinning kick to the temple of the third warrior. The angle was precise. The force was calculated. The Grell fell. 4 down. 5 down. Only 5 opponents remained. Brix took a step backward. His 2 Tory companions looked at each other with something new in their eyes. Fear. The Keth brawlers moved forward, their stone-like skin making them walk slowly but steadily. They were not afraid. They knew that nothing the human could do would hurt them. They were wrong. Doyan had studied every species in the academy. He had read their biology, their history, their combat techniques. He knew that Keth were nearly invulnerable to blunt force. Their rock-like hide could stop blades and bullets, but beneath their jaw ridges, skin was soft. No one ever attacked that spot. No one ever got close enough. The Keth protected it without thinking, the same way humans protected their throats. Doyan feinted left. The first Keth turned to follow, exposing its right side. Doyan's fingers struck the soft tissue beneath the jaw. The Keth made a strange sound, something between a gasp and a groan. Its eyes went unfocused. It swayed. The second Keth swung at him, a slow and powerful blow. Doyen ducked, swept the creature's legs out from under it, followed through with 3 rapid strikes to the same vulnerable point. Both Keth collapsed 6 down. 7 down. 8 opponents had fallen in less than 5 minutes. Only Brix and his 2 Tory lieutenants remained. They stood at the edge of the arena, their faces pale, their confidence shattered. Around them, the unconscious bodies of their allies lay scattered across the black glass floor. Duhyun stood in the center, breathing hard but still standing. His knuckles were bruised, his muscles burned, but his eyes were clear. He looked at Brix and said nothing. He did not need to. The fight was not over. But everyone in that hall now understood something. That would change the Academy forever. Humans were not weak, and this one had only just begun. The silence in the combat simulation hall was so deep that Doyan could hear his own heartbeat. It pounded in his chest like a drum, steady and strong. His lungs pulled in air that tasted of sweat and metal. Around him, 7 bodies lay still on the black glass floor. He had taken damage. His ribs ached from a glancing blow one of the Grell had landed. His left shoulder was stiff where a Keth had grabbed him. Blood dripped from a small cut above his eye, where a Nyx's claw had come too close, but he was still standing. Across the arena, Brix and his 2 Tory companions stared at him. The confidence they had worn like armor was gone now, stripped away by what they had just witnessed. Doyen watched them carefully. The Tory were different from the other species he had fought. They were not faster or stronger than humans. Their advantage was technique. For thousands of years, they had developed combat forms that were considered perfect. Every movement was precise. Every angle was calculated. They wasted no energy and made no mistakes. Against any other species, they would have been deadly, but Doyan was not worried about their technique. He was worried about his own body. The human body was not designed for extended combat. It was designed for short bursts of incredible violence, followed by rest and recovery. That was how humans had survived on Earth. They chased their prey, caught it, killed it, and then rested while their wounds healed. Doyan had been fighting at full intensity for 5 minutes now. His adrenaline was still pumping, keeping him sharp and fast, but he could feel the edge starting to dull. His reflexes were slowing. His muscles were filling with acid. He needed to end this quickly. The 2 Tory lieutenants moved first. They circled around him, one on each side, their movements perfectly synchronized. They had trained together for years. They could read each other without speaking. Doyon let them come. The first attack came from his left, a sweeping kick aimed at his knee, designed to cripple him. Doyon shifted his weight, letting the kick pass just in front of him. The second Tory struck from the right, a palm strike aimed at his throat. He caught the wrist and twisted. The Tory gasped in surprise. No one had ever caught his attack before. His technique had been flawless. The timing had been perfect. But humans did not fight with technique. They fought with instinct. Doyen pulled the Tory toward him, using the alien's momentum against him. His forehead slammed into the Tory's face. The sound was wet and ugly. The alien staggered backward, silver blood pouring from his broken nose. The other Tory attacked again, a spinning strike aimed at Doyan's temple. It was beautiful. It was elegant. It was also predictable. Doyan stepped inside the spin, too close for the strike to land properly. His elbow drove into the Tory's solar plexus. The alien folded, all the air rushing out of his lungs. Doyan grabbed him by the back of the head and brought his knee up. The Tory went limp and fell. 8 down. The first Tory was still standing, holding his bleeding face with both hands. His silver eyes were wild with pain and fear. He looked at his fallen companion, then at Doyen, then at Brix. "This is impossible," he whispered. "He is just one human." Doyen hit him in the throat. The Tory collapsed, gasping for air. He would live, but he would not fight again today. 9 down. Only Brix remained. The leader of the group had not moved during the last exchange. He stood at the edge of the arena, his pale face unreadable. His silver eyes watched Doyen with something new. Something that might have been respect, or might have been terror. The crowd began to murmur. The silence broke like ice on a spring river. Voices rose from the galleries, speaking in dozens of languages. Some were shocked, some were angry, and some, Do-yeon noticed, were almost excited. They had come to see a human destroyed, instead. They had seen something they would never forget. Brix finally spoke. His voice was calm, but Do-yeon could see his hands shaking. You have done well, human. Better than anyone expected. But you are tired. I can see it in your eyes. Your body is failing. Do-yeon said nothing. It was true. His legs felt heavy. His arms were starting to tremble. The adrenaline that had carried him this far was beginning to fade. I am fresh, Brix continued. He began to walk forward, his movements slow and deliberate. I have not lifted a finger. You have fought 9 opponents and taken damage. Do you really think you can defeat me? Do-yeon watched him approach. He thought about everything he knew about Tori biology. They were physically similar to humans in many ways. Same basic structure. Same vital organs. But they had evolved on a world with lighter gravity and fewer predators. They had never needed to be tough. Humans had. Let me tell you something about my world, Do-yeon said quietly. His voice was steady, despite his exhaustion. There is an animal called a honey badger. It is small. It is not fast. It is not particularly smart. Brix frowned. Why are you telling me about an animal? Because the honey badger does not care about size. It does not care about strength. When something threatens it, it attacks. When something hurts it, it attacks harder. Do-yeon met Brix's silver eyes. Lions have learned to leave it alone. Elephants run from it. Because the honey badger will keep fighting until it dies. And it does not die easily. Brix laughed, but the sound was hollow. You think you are like this creature? A small animal that fights above its weight? No, Do-yeon said. I am telling you that on Earth, even our small animals are more dangerous than your warriors. For a moment, Brix hesitated. His silver eyes flickered with uncertainty. He had expected the human to be broken by now, physically and mentally. Instead, he was facing someone who seemed to grow more dangerous with every passing second. But Brix was Tori. He had been raised to believe his species was superior to all others. He could not back down in front of the entire academy. His pride would not allow it. Enough talk, he said coldly. Let us finish this, he attacked. Brix was fast. Faster than his lieutenants, faster than anyone Do-yeon had fought so far. His strikes flowed like water, each one leading into the next. There was no wasted motion, no hesitation. This was the product of 1,000 years of combat evolution. Do-yeon blocked the first strike. The second, the third, the fourth got through. A palm strike to his chest that sent him stumbling backward. Brix pressed his advantage, raining down blows from every angle. Each one was precise. Each one was painful. Do-yeon felt his body absorbing the damage, storing it for later. His bones creaked. His muscles screamed. But he did not fall. This was what humans did. They took damage. They endured pain. They kept going long after other species would have collapsed. Their bodies were not designed for quick victories. They were designed for survival, and Do-yeon intended to survive. He blocked another strike, then another. He let Brix push him back, let the Tori believe he was winning. His vision blurred. His arms felt like lead, but through the haze of exhaustion and pain, he saw something, an opening. Brix's left side was exposed for just a fraction of a second during his attack pattern. It was a tiny flaw. It's invisible to anyone who had not been watching for it. Do-yeon had been watching. He gathered everything he had left. Every ounce of strength, every drop of will, every memory of every insult, and every slight. He poured it all into one final counter. His fist connected with Brix's jaw. The Tori's head snapped back. His silver eyes went wide with shock, and then he fell. The arena went completely silent. Do-yeon stood alone in the center of the black glass floor, surrounded by 10 unconscious bodies. His breath came in ragged gasps. His body shook with exhaustion. Blood dripped from his face and hands, but he was standing. And for the first time in his life, Park Do-yeon smiled. The silence lasted for 3 heartbeats. Then the combat simulation hall exploded with noise. Thousands of voices rose at once, speaking in dozens of languages, shouting over each other in confusion and disbelief. Some cadets were standing. Some were pointing at the arena. Some were arguing with their neighbors about what they had just witnessed. But beneath all the noise, there was something else, something quieter. Understanding, Do-haeon stood in the center of the arena, his body swaying slightly. His vision was blurry at the edges. His lungs burned with each breath. Every muscle screamed at him to lie down, to rest, to let the darkness at the edge of his vision finally take him. He refused. Instead, he looked around at the 10 bodies scattered across the black glass floor. The Nyx Scouts, the Grell Warriors, the Keth Brawlers, the Tory Lieutenants, and at his feet Brix himself, the pale face now marked with a bruise that would take weeks to heal. Do-yeon had one dot against all odds, against every expectation, against everything the galaxy believed about humans. He had one. Medical teams rushed into the arena. They were small creatures with too many arms, carrying equipment that hummed with strange energy. They ignored Do-yeon completely, focusing instead on the fallen fighters who needed immediate attention. Instructor Gorbax walked slowly toward the center of the arena. His gray face showed no expression, but his 2-directional eyes lingered on Do-yeon for a long moment. "The challenge is concluded," Gorbax announced, his voice cutting through the noise. "The human, Park Do-yeon, is victorious." The noise grew louder. Some cadets cheered. Others protested. A group of Tory in the upper gallery shouted insults, their faces twisted with anger. But most of the crowd simply stared, trying to process what they had seen. Gorbax raised a hand for silence. It took several seconds, but eventually the hall grew quiet again. "Under Academy law," he continued, "the victor of a formal challenge is entitled to speak. Park Do-yeon, do you have anything to say?" Do-yeon looked up at the galleries. Thousands of faces looked back at him. Alien faces of every shape and color, with eyes that glowed and skin that shimmered and bodies that seemed impossible. All of them were watching him, waiting for his words. He thought about everything that had happened since he arrived at the academy. The empty seats in the classroom, the torn uniform, the sabotaged equipment, the whispers that followed him everywhere. He thought about Brix's cruel smile and cold words. "Humans should stick to mining asteroids. You do not belong here." He had every right to be angry. He had every right to throw their hatred back in their faces, to remind them of their arrogance and their failure, but that was not why he was here. "I did not come to this academy to prove that humans are better than anyone else," he said. His voice was quiet, but in the silent hall, everyone could hear him. "I came here to learn, to train, to become stronger." He looked down at Brix, who was starting to stir. The Tory's silver eyes flickered open, confused and dazed. "Where I come from, there is a saying. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Do-yeon offered his hand to his fallen enemy. "We believe that failure is not the end. It is just another step on the path." Brix stared at the offered hand. His face was a mix of emotions: pride, anger, confusion, and beneath it all, something that might have been shame. For a long moment, he did not move. Then slowly, he reached up and took Do-yeon's hand. Do-yeon pulled him to his feet. The Tory swayed, still unsteady, but he did not fall. They stood face to face, the human and the alien who had tried to destroy him. "Why?" Brix asked quietly. "Why help me? After everything I did to you?" "Because hatred is heavy," Do-yeon replied, "and I have carried enough weight already." Brix was silent. He looked at Do-yeon as if seeing him for the first time, not as a primitive creature from a death world, not as an outsider who did not belong, but as a warrior, an equal. "I was wrong about you," Brix said finally. The words seemed to cost him something. "About all humans?" Do-yeon nodded. "I know. The medical teams finished their work and began carrying the unconscious fighters out of the arena. Korvax dismissed the crowd, though many cadets lingered, still talking about what they had seen. As Doyan walked toward the exit, he found Vel waiting for him. The insectoid's antennae were twitching with excitement. "That was incredible," Vel said, falling into step beside him. "I've never seen anything like it. You defeated 10 of them. 10. It was not easy. Easy." Vel made that clicking sound that served as laughter. "You were nearly killed. I thought I would have to find a new roommate." Doyan almost smiled. "I am harder to kill than I look." They walked through the silver hallways of the academy. This time, the other cadets did not move away from him. Some nodded as he passed. A few even spoke words of respect in their own languages. Everything had changed. Later that evening, Yuna found him in his room. She looked tired but relieved. "You did it," she said. "I still cannot believe it." "Neither can I," Doyan admitted. He was lying on his bed, his body covered in bandages and healing patches. Every part of him hurt. "I thought I was going to lose, but you did not." "Oh, no, I did not." Yuna sat down on the edge of the bed. Her sharp eyes studied his face. "The whole academy is talking about you. Some are calling you a hero. Others are calling you a monster. The Tory Council is demanding an investigation." "Let them investigate," Dojan said calmly. "I followed every rule. I broke nothing, no. But this is bigger than rules." Yuna leaned forward. "You showed the entire galaxy that humans are not weak. That we are not the primitive creatures they thought we were. Do you understand what that means?" Doyan looked at the ceiling. He thought about Earth, so far away now. He thought about the billions of humans who had no idea what had happened here today. "It means they will fear us," he said. "Maybe. Or maybe it means they will respect us." Yuna smiled slightly. "Either way, nothing will be the same." She was right. Over the following weeks, Doyan saw the changes everywhere. Other human cadets reported being treated better. Instructors began including human biology in their training programs. Scientists requested permission to study Earth's gravity and its effects on evolution, and one day, Brix found him in the training hall. The Tory walked up to him without his usual group of followers. His face still bore the mark of their fight, a faint bruise beneath his jaw. "I have been thinking about what you said," Brix told him. "About hatred being heavy." "Well," Doyan paused his training. "And I have carried hatred for a long time. Against humans, against anyone who threatened Tory superiority." Brix looked down at his elegant hands. "It is exhausting." "Yes, it is. I do not want to be exhausted anymore." Brix met his eyes. "I came to ask if you would train with me. I want to learn how humans fight. How you think." Doyan studied him for a long moment. He saw the pride that still lingered in those silver eyes. But he also saw something new. Something that looked almost like humility. "Okay, I will train with you," Doyan said finally. "But I will not go easy on you," Brix smiled. It was the first real smile Doyan had ever seen on his face. "I would not want you to." They trained together until the artificial stars outside the window faded into artificial dawn. They pushed each other, challenged each other, learned from each other. And in that training hall, something new was born. Not just respect, not just understanding, friendship. The galaxy was vast and old and full of wonders. But that night, in a small training hall on a world far from Earth, two former enemies discovered something that all the technology in the universe could not create. They discovered that strength was not about being the best. It was about helping others become better. And that, Doyan thought, was the most human thing of all.